How have you been? Let me see. Okay. Yes, enlightened. Thank you, Coach Natasha. Awesome. I have been excited. I love that. It's the energy and fulfilled. Awesome. Winning. Yes, Coach Flo. I see that. Coach Kate, happy and fulfilled. Well and grounded. I like that. Unstoppable. Yes, let's do this. Coach Jeremy. Coach Agnes, been okay? I have a live question on client I'm dealing with. Awesome. Bring it on, Coach Agnes. Blessed and very motivated. Thank you so much, Coach Charity. Much better getting there. Yes. One step at a time, we keep moving, but forward. Coach Julia, delighted, awesome, grateful. Oh, Coach Mbula, good to see you. Long time. Their coach Lucy, empowered. Sheila, optimistic. Coach Elizabeth, being grieving, taking it a day at a time. Yes, coach, all seasons we go through them. They are part of this life. We get stronger and stronger every moment. Keep going, coach. Coach Mudomi, getting better. Yes. More clarity. Yes, Coach Rose. Very well. Corinne, good to see you, Coach Corinne Wamwene. Coach Wamwene, enjoying my coaching journey. Yes, I love that. Coach Margaret, feeling energetic. Coach Ndanu, doing great. Bruno, Coach Bruno, I have just run a marathon just to be here, and I'm happy to be part of this family. Karibu sana. And welcome, everyone. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Every session here on Monday is an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to get better. I think someone is sharing something, or is it me? On the, is someone who shared screen? Before we start, let me see. Okay, how I can pop out from that. Okay, great. Yes, so now we are good to go, coaches. And now we are following up on where we stopped because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to guide you as a D.L.C coach to get as much leverage as possible when it comes to giving people a breakthrough. Because we have a marketplace that is saturated by coaches, but I can tell you for the last 18 years, we have an opportunity because coaching has got a wide door open for people to come in, but a very small door for refined professional coaches who can deliver results in every session. The marketplace doesn't have that. The marketplace needs that. The marketplace is thirsty for coaches that can deliver results in every session. There is always a space and a place for such a coach. And that's why we are having these sessions here every Monday. So welcome to this lab. This is a practice lab where we either do one-on-one sessions or do the group session. And I've been doing the group session with you for the last few Mondays, and we'll continue to do that until this journey where we go through the core foundational principles of breakthrough coaching. And so today we are going deeper because we've been addressing the process of reset, breakthrough. When you're working with a client, how do you help people reset their life and attain the results that they are looking for? So tonight we are training on one practical coaching skills that I believe is one of the core coaching skills that you can ever learn as a coach. And this is what we call pattern breaking. Pattern breaking and state shifting is so crucial because the reason we come to see a coach is because we are stuck in a pattern. The reason we come to see our coach is because we are stuck in a certain emotional state. And here is the truth. Clients don't get stuck just because, they are humans or they are telling themselves stories. No, they get stuck because there is an underlying pattern in their life. And as a coach, when you focus on the pattern and aim on the pattern, then you get to help your client. You get to help them. But unless you help them with a pattern, let's say you motivate them and they come out of the session feeling good, and I'm sure you've seen this, that perhaps even yourself, you've gone to see a coach and you come out of the session motivated and you feel like you're going to move the world. But then after a few weeks, you go back again to the same pattern. It's because patterns win all the time. And unless we interrupt those patterns, unless we learn to break those patterns, we remain stuck. And this is how, as a coach that gives results to your clients, you want to learn to interrupt those automatic loops, because they are automatic. They are always running at the background of their life. And unless they are interrupted, their life remains the same. Someone tells you, I've changed. Jesus is Lord. I'll never again go back. But then you meet them again, the same person. And this can be discouraging. Coach Lydia told us, she's also a minister. When you are dealing with people, it can be discouraging when people remain the same. And they are not Jesus. Jesus is the one who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. We are not created to remain the same yesterday, today, and forever, especially with these negative patterns and behaviors. We are here to make a shift. And when you work with a client and you realize, oh, they are the same, the client is just talking the same, the client is living the same kind of life, it's really discouraging. And that's why I felt this pattern interruption session is crucial for us to go through today. You don't want to be the one that deals with a client who goes to the same pattern over and over again. In church, we call it backsliding. You don't like backsliding. You don't want backsliding clients who are going back to the same pattern, the same. Someone has been talking about drinking for year after year. You're talking about the same pattern year after year after year, and you're working with them. You're like, oh no, your heart just gets heavy. You're like, what am I going to do? Sometimes, because we are not here to advise people, but we are here to help them, guide them to breaking patterns that are holding them back. And some people don't even know that these patterns are there in their life. And so awareness is key. So we are talking about how to identify those patterns. Can you see them? Because most people can't see the pattern. Most people are not aware of the patterns. And coach, listen, you have to have the courage, and I'm using that word carefully, because courage is one of the most underrated skill. Let me call it skill. Courage. And courage is not when you conquer the world and you are the most powerful coach. Courage is when you're vulnerable with yourself. Courage is when you're vulnerable with your client. Courage, for me, if you ask me, you cannot be courageous without vulnerability. You can't. We think of courage and we think Chuck Norris, Rambo, macho man, and world-wrecking giants. No. Courage is when you are actually weak but do it. Courage is when you step out in your authentic self and do the impossible and move out there with your story and tell that story without fear. That's courage. But also courage for you as a coach is to be able to be seen for who you are and call out your client without fear, because we fear to tell people, here is a pattern that we must work on if this is the life you want. Here is a pattern that is standing between you and your destiny. And as your coach, this pattern must be worked on. You have to be vulnerable to get there. I've seen in the marketplace, most coaches want to be nice. Most coaches want to be nice to their client, must to appear nice. They want to be liked. And I pray to God that whoever I serve, I come out as real as possible. And that is priceless, by the way. I realized later, I used to think it's weakness, that I need to be, cut in a certain way to fit the expectation of the client. And I realized, oh my goodness, I was giving away my power. And the more authentic and vulnerable I am with myself, the more authentic and vulnerable I am with my client. I can tell them, you are walking in the dark, my friend. It feels like you're walking in the dark. It feels like you are on your way to your deathbed. It feels like the grave is calling you. And by authenticity, I can tell you for free, life has been saved. And there are times I felt bad that I wasn't authentic, that I wasn't really vulnerable enough with my clients to tell them the truth. And I've worked with different coaches on the level of them being my mentors. Let me tell you, the coaches I've loved are the coaches that were so vulnerable with me, and they were so open with me. And let me tell you, the nature of these coaches, there are people who had worked on themselves. They were so vulnerable with themselves. There was nothing they were hiding. I tell you this, coach, if you want to help people at the deepest level and help them break their limits, you have to break your own limits. And one of the ways to do that, vulnerability. Be vulnerable. Now, vulnerability requires courage, because some of us have been hiding since we were babies, since we were children. The only thing we know is to be safe, and you cannot grow and be safe at the same time. Where we are being called, the next level of transformation requires us to be really authentic and vulnerable. That is the coach the world is looking for. And I told you, the entry to coaching is a wide gate, but the exit to the cut that cuts now professional coaches that give results is very thin. Why? People don't want to be vulnerable. People want to hide. People feel that there's a sense of safety in hiding their authentic self. And people don't know how to tell themselves the truth. And so people don't know how to tell others the truth. And so as we learn about pattern breaking, I want you to put a point on vulnerability. We are being called to be vulnerable. We're being called to be real. The realest you are, the more real you are, the more business you're going to make in this world, I tell you, because real people are not common. And people want their money to have value. And I tell you this, value will come from you being real than you being certified. That should be a tweet somewhere. More value, people will see more value from you for being a real coach that really calls things as they are. And we put a caveat there, because we say for you to be that, you have to have dealt with your issues. And you have to be dealt with your vulnerability. Issues here, I mean vulnerability. Being open with yourself. Being open with your journey. Knowing that everything that is happening to me is serving me. And I'm not a victim of this life. I'm making lemonades out of the lemons that this life throw on my face. Everything is working for me. And I'm not perfect. I'm not aiming for perfection. I am both weak and strong. Because people that refuse the power of vulnerability are people that only think they need to be strong. Who said you need to be strong? We are coming from a background of motivational speaking and motivating people. There are times you actually don't need to be strong. You just stand there in that weakness and feel, what is God saying in this moment? There are times you don't need that encouragement. When I lost my dad, and my dad has been my best friend for the longest time. I mean, I've known him from the time I was born, and we've been so close. And last year I lost my father, and I met my friends. I could see on the expression on their face that they wanted to encourage me, and I didn't need any encouragement. I wanted to be in that moment and go through that season and really get to know what God was passing me through. In fact, sometimes we think we are serving people and we are not when we deliver them before they get the lesson. And when we are going through this lesson, if you don't get the lesson, we continue the same patterns over and over and over again. And so, even as we dive deeper into pattern breaking, this work requires that as coaches, if we want to play at the 1% of the world population, of the coaches that really deliver results to people, we have to be vulnerable. We have to know that we are not hiding our humanity. We are human, but we are powerful beyond measure. But we are also weak people, and we are strong people at the same time. We are weak people, we are strong people. That tells your nervous system to let go of the brakes of perfectionism that is holding on to not to make a mistake. Make peace with your humanity. That if Christ himself could make peace with humanity and say, I'm both God and man, who are you, really? Who are you? If he can say, I'm a carpenter, I'm the guy that actually can have a discussion, a heated discussion with my mother, and sometimes I can really get into her business. I mean, we lose our humanity when we think you don't want to be the whole person. And I don't want to see my weaknesses. I just want to see my strength. You just denied your humanity. And people that have become really people I desire to be close to are real people. They are people that know, and they can acknowledge, yeah, you know, Jeff, this is a struggle for me right now. But when I meet people, even clients that want help, they come with a mask. I'm like, why? Why do you come with a mask when you need help? Why do you go to a doctor and you can't undress and get help? You know, it's because our mind is trained to hide. We've been trying to hide these patterns. We've been trained from childhood that if you remain a certain way, people will like you. Breaking news, it's a lie. It's a lie. People can just see you're not being authentic. People can just see, just like majority of the human population, you are trying hard to hide your true authentic self. And that cuts you from the leadership cup, because there's a leader, what I call 1% of the human population, the people that lead people, the agents of change. They are vulnerable people. Listen to their stories. They tell their stories. We laugh at them. We laugh at their valleys, but they inspire us. They inspire us because we desire that. You know, people who inspire us are people that we desire something that they portray. And I can tell you this, authenticity is one of the number one breakthrough that you can allow yourself to be authentic, even in your inner conversations. We said here in the last session, in a single day, we have over 165,000 thoughts and conversations with ourselves. And most of these conversations are driven by our need for certainty, to be sure of ourselves. And if we can just slow down and listen to the rhythm within us, so we can come from that place that is authentic within us, then we can help other people break their own pattern of this speed. The world is going in so much speed, and the speed is about either pleasing people or making people see us a certain way, proving a point. You know, you go through PhD process just to prove a point. You go through making money, become a millionaire to prove a point. I mean, have you ever stepped back to ask yourself, okay, so what's the meaning? What's the deeper meaning of life? What really matters most? And then you begin to connect from within and begin from that moment to be vulnerable and open. If you realize at the end of the day, the last days, and I've been privileged sometimes to coach people in the last days of their life. There's this one client we worked with as she was going through the last days of her life. And it was really a tough coaching experience working with her, because this is someone I knew, invited me. She was told, you know, this is the last of the last days of your life. And what would you request? And she requested to work with me and our children and the husband during a tough time. And that was one of my toughest intervention. And she had made peace with God. This is it. But I would like to exit a certain way. And it was amazing just sharing the stories with the children, with the husband, saying goodbye. And as I work with these people, you know, you go home and ask yourself question, what is this life about? And as I was reflecting about my client and listening to her stories, I was asking her questions on what really matters the most to her. And the people she could remember are people, very ordinary people, because, you know, she's a high government officer dealing with very, you know, top people in office, in government. And all she could remember are the real people she met. And some of them, people that are down there, they don't have those big offices. They are not driving the big cars. They don't live in the beautiful places, but there are people that touch her life. And that's what she had as her wealth. Because remember, she has a few days to live, and now I'm helping her reflect and share this with her children. So as to pass on wisdom, it is people that are real, people that were authentic. And because I'm a researcher, I was taking notes. And I find out that vulnerability is wealth, And it begins at the point where you realize you're human. You're strong beyond measure, but you're also weak. You're also weak. And I'm also weak. And I'm strong beyond measure. Oh, you've no idea. I'm strong beyond measure. I can conquer the mountain, but I know I get scared. I know I feel my heart beating, and I feel, oh my God, how will I make it to the other side? And keep going. That is humanity. Don't deny it. And the moment you begin to accept that humanity, you begin to feel the real power of God within you that can create the space for people to change. You give other people permission to change. There's an author by the name Marianne Williamson. She said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's not our darkness that we are scared of. We are scared of shining. We are scared of our light. We are scared of being open and vulnerable and just being seen that we can go and, you know, make the changes required out there as a coach, as a mentor, as a mother, as a father. You can't make that change when you're hiding your true self because people don't know who you are. Okay, so let's take a deep breath together. From wherever you are, take a deep breath into your belly. Hold it. Slowly out through the mouth. Very good. So let me see if you're ready to do the work and you're ready for vulnerability. You're ready to be open and play at that level, because this is an invitation. As your leader, as your coach, I'm inviting you to a very interesting space. It's a space of being vulnerable and open, because I know we can't help people when you are hiding ourselves. Let me see if you're ready. On the comment section, type there ready. If you're ready, let me see on the comments. You're ready to that level. You're ready to play on that level of transformation and vulnerability. Let me see, even before we dive deeper. Ready. Yes. Awesome. I love that. I see. I like that commitment. I like engagement commitment, because it's good to know where people sit when you talk about this heavy stuff. And it's because you have the strength, the capacity to really digest all this. That's why you're here. So a pattern is a repeated emotional behavior. It's both emotional and behavior loop that is repeated over and over and over again in your life, in the life of your client. That's what we call a pattern, because it's good to define what we are talking about here. It's something that is repeated, and all of us have got patterns. It could be patterns of, in the last training on Monday, I shared my pattern that became an identity, that in high school, Form 1, I was called the shy boy because I was really shy, and I transitioned from shy boy to leader. And that transition itself led me to being elected the class rep that year, every year of my high school, all the way to the school captain. And it's because I shifted an identity from being the shy boy that everyone makes fun of to being a leader, someone that serves the institution, someone that serves the community of the boys' school where I went. And up to today, by the way, you go to that school, you find my name, because I was awarded one of the best school captains, because I led during a time where schools were banned and there was nothing like that. There was discipline those years. And I can tell you this, my courage did not come because I was so strong. No, yes, I was strong, but it came from a shift of identity from the shy boy to the leader. And I told my story in the last video. If you've not watched it, please go and watch the video of how I made that shift and what inspired me to make that shift. But the identity of the shy boy was created by a pattern. And this is a pattern of carefulness, the pattern of just being too careful to be vulnerable and to be real. I don't know, maybe you're there and you're also, with that pattern. Our childhood plays a huge role in how we interact with the world. So sometimes we are too careful. We take time to calculate before we even say what's in our heart, and we hold back. And those patterns form an identity when they are repeated over and over again. So they can be emotional, but also they can be behavior pattern that is repeated over and over again. So patterns follow a structure. Begin with a trigger, then trigger creates an emotion, and the emotion creates behavior, and the behavior creates the result. Now, most of us just see the results, just see, oh, he's shy, he's not confident, oh, he's always quiet in meetings. That's our result. there is a pattern, there's a loop that comes with that trigger. That some of us, the pattern is we are okay speaking to 3 people. But more than that, we don't speak the same. Our voices begin to vibrate differently. We can't even breathe normally. We begin to sweat, and we are different people altogether. And so you are the one that determines what is your trigger. Is it the number of people? I remember when I spoke 7,000 people to 7,000 people in Kasarani Stadium. I'd never been invited to such a huge meeting. And I was scared. And I was scared because that was it was a meeting where even the president was speaking. It was the, what do you call it? The Equity Foundation program when it was being launched. And I was one of the speakers. And I was told, you're a young person. The rest are not as young. We expect you to inspire us. And I'm like, well, inspire you? A meeting where the president is going to speak? What inspiration are you bringing? That's my ego speaking. And I'm like, oh my God, I was sweating. And I can't remember the number of times I excused myself to go to the washroom until you realize there's nothing you're going to do there. Pray, do the prayers, and your heart is still racing until you make a decision. And I remember the way I practiced the triad of emotions, where you can shift your emotion by focusing on 3 things. What's my focus right now? What does this mean? And what is my physiology? And so I started with my physiology, took a deep breath. And what am I going to focus on? Focus on this moment right here. Just share my story. And that does not mean that the fear went immediately. No. But the moment I took my breath, I entered into a new state. And I told the guy that invited me, let's go. Let's do this. And of course, I continued to breathe. And this is something we can practice. When you're invited and you feel your heart is racing, first of all, that's normal. It's normal for your heart to race like that when you're doing something for the first time. And it's good to tell yourself, this is normal. What does this mean? The distinction is what this means. Does this mean I'm cooked? Like my son tells me, you're totally cooked. That's what my son Jason tells me. You're totally cooked. Am I cooked? Or is it an opportunity? Does this mean this is destiny change? Like this is going to change so many lives of these young people. 7,000 young people. This is an opportunity. I've never done this before. This is an opportunity. And it's an opportunity for me to make a mark in the life of people I might never meet. I remember telling myself that. So meaning, when you're shifting your state, how you feel, when you're breaking that pattern, meaning is very crucial. What does this mean to me? And you have an opportunity to give meaning to anything. There's nothing that has any meaning. You're the one that gives it meaning. And so I told myself, this is an opportunity to change in 1 hour. 7,000 people gathered together and the media is there. So you're doing more than that. I've never had this opportunity. Man, my heart, if you keep beating, but I'm doing this. If you keep sweating, my body keeps sweating, but I'm doing this. So I'm not focusing on the sweat. I'm focusing on this moment and making a change. Let me tell you what happened. Was it 5 years later? A young lady calls me from Harvard University. And she told me that speech that I gave changed her life. And today she was the only Kenyan in that program in Harvard University. Because of that speech, I inspired her. Oh my God, that really touched my heart. I was like, what? And wow. She told me she has made so many other decisions. She has shared with her parents about me and about, this is someone I don't know, looked for me online and found my number and called me to thank me many, many years later. After one speech that I did with my heart racing and my body sweating like I was being sacrificed that night. Remember the story of Abraham, and I felt like I was the one going to the altar. I felt I was going to be sacrificed. I'm like, I mean, in Kenya, there are so many people. Why me? Why did you select me? You know, I felt like, oh God, why not my neighbor? You know, someone we can watch. But I went, and thank God I did it. And I shared my story, and I was vulnerable. And in that moment of vulnerability, I served this young lady who called me and told me, guess where I am? I was the only one selected in this program. And the joy in my heart, this is really what makes my heart feel so blessed and grateful. When I can show up anyway and not be obedient to the patterns of fear, to the patterns of perfectionism, because I was focused on making a change. There's always a transaction. The moment I submit myself to a higher calling, I cannot do that and still submit to fear. And submitting to fear doesn't mean, you know, submitting to high calling and not to fear doesn't mean you're not feeling the fear knocking the door. No, fear will knock the door. And I can tell you, this meeting I did in Kasarani Stadium, I felt my heart beating. Even when I was being introduced, I was still feeling fear telling me, don't do it. Don't do it. And I took my deep breath and I did it anyway. I stood there in that big podium, red carpet, and my feet wanted to fellowship, but I did it anyway. Thank God I did it. When I got that call, this young lady telling me that speech made everything. And by the way, this is not the only person. There's another young man that called me sometime after the speech, after 2 years or so, and told me how that changed his life. And I'm telling you this to really impress upon your heart. First of all, the fact that you're not perfect. And if you've been aiming for perfection, you're actually working against yourself. And when I stood there and I'm like, this is a speech that so many people are going to hear. People will be listening to me. The ego, the imposter was speaking in me, but I also knew if I just be vulnerable and just share my story with these young people, I just felt like, hey, can I share all the coaching tools in the world? Like really all the tools I know. But I knew I'll walk out of that place without touching a heart. Because you can either touch a heart or you can touch the minds of people. And you know, people are already in their heads. So if you choose to touch their heads, there's not much you're doing. This work, we're being called to touch the heart, my friend. And so, like I was saying, a pattern follows a trigger. There's something that triggers you, and then you feel something. So from trigger to emotion, from emotion to behavior, and from behavior to results. Let me give you an example. So let's say a client receives criticism. They are criticized for who they are. And I've seen this with several of my clients, especially young people. So you're criticized. And of course, so the next thing is the criticism is the trigger. When people criticize you, you're triggered to feel. You feel insecure, the sense of insecurity. So that sense of insecurity creates a behavior. What behavior? It could be they withdraw. It could be they decide to be silent in meetings. It could be they They never lift their hand. That's the behavior. Now, if you've gone to Toastmasters, some of us, I know you've gone to Toastmasters. The challenge of Toastmasters, and I'm telling you this as a former Toastmaster, is that we are training people to perform, not to deal with our pattern. And so the challenge of that is we are not helping people from a root space. We are just training people to make a presentation, to perform in a meeting. So this person is not really transformed at the end of the day. And not all Toastmasters really are not transformed. But I know the entire process of Toastmasters focuses on the presentation, and not on you really being real from within. And so you're watching the behavior, how to perform. And most of us, focus on behavior only. So if you're dealing with a client like this, they repeat the same loop. They are criticized, they feel they're insecure, they withdraw. Until now, the pattern of withdrawal becomes their identity. This is who I am. You're the shy boy, Jeff in Form 1. This came as a process of withdrawal until I just had made a decision. This is who I am. And then people treat me the same way because people look at the way you show up and then they treat you that way. Okay, so we are coming from, it's a pattern. I want you to be able to look at your own life because this program is not about preparing us to help people. No, it's about us going through the journey ourselves so that we can actually see it. Because if you don't experience it, it's hard for you to see it in people. It's hard for you to see the behavior. And so what's the result? The result is lost opportunities. This client of yours that because of being criticized, they felt insecure, and feeling insecure makes them withdraw. Withdrawal makes them lose opportunities. They'll not get, those opportunities. And it doesn't mean they are not smart. No, because it's not, this world doesn't reward just smartness. It rewards authenticity, being real. That which you are hiding is what the world is looking for. That which you are hiding, you wish people never see. That's what the world is looking for. That story that you've never told, that is the one people can pay you to tell it. That story. And so over time, as we repeat that process, it becomes automatic. It becomes everyday thing. It becomes normal. So if someone tells you, do you know you can speak before 7,000 people, you say, who? Me? Oh, no. Jeff can do that. No. Do you know Jeff was once in that position where he was saying, me? No, not me. Someone else can do it. Because I was stuck in a pattern, in a loop that made me feel I can only play at a certain level. Now, I want you to know this is not just about public speaking and coaching. It's also about money. There is some money that is mentioned and you go like, oh no, not me. Like a client tells you, I can hire you as my coach, but I want you to coach me only and I will pay you 10 million a month. Some of us will resist that and say, oh no, I'm not ready for that. No, the sense of worthiness, because the fear of vulnerability is because we don't feel worthy to share. We don't feel worthy to receive. And we don't feel worthy to share our story. And so that's why we close it down. And as I work with people, let me tell you, one of the biggest pattern I've seen is the pattern of unworthiness. Like people feel I'm not worthy. And this is a humanity thing. Like all of us just feel the same. And the more you think you're unique, you're so different from other people, the more lies you're telling yourself. we are more alike than we want to accept, than we want to agree. It's when you come closer to people and say, oh, Kumbe Jeff is just a normal dude. This guy is just a normal dude. I thought, let me tell you, I used to think my parents are not normal. Talking about normal, I used to think my parents were not normal. In fact, I used to think my parents don't go to the toilet. When I was growing up, I would never imagine that my dad and mom were going to the washroom and do what I do there. I could not link that to my father and mother. You know, I used to think these people are superhuman. Yeah, yeah. And until one day, you know, I realized, oh, it's we're actually human. We are normal. So sometimes you think you are the only one. That you're the only one with your weaknesses. You're the only one who struggles with these things. And so you train your mind with a pattern of performance. Your life is all about performance because you think people are marking me. Do you know what problems people have? Do they even have time for you? People have no time for you. They have no time for me. People are busy with their issues. They have no time. And when I realized that, I'm like, okay. And then what calls attention to people is actually vulnerability, is not perfection. Perfection will be like, oh, nice, nice. Oh, I like that. I like that. But do you know how much likes are in our generation? Like being liked is worthless. It's worthless. It's worthless. Being liked, you just, you know, those likes on social media, being liked is, it will not earn you anything. But being real, that's everything. If you want to do a business, it doesn't matter what kind of business you are in, be real. Be real with people. But you cannot be real with people if you're not real with yourself. Be real. No matter how far God takes you, don't leave your realness, because that's the beginning of death. Because people don't know how to interact with you. People don't know you. You know, they're like, so who are you? Which you do I deal with? So over time, these patterns become automatic. So I want to ask you a question. And the question is a yes or no on the comment section. Have you ever seen someone that repeats the same pattern, the same behavior over and over again, even when they know it's painful? Even when they know better, they keep repeating the same behavior. Let me see on the comment section. Do you know someone like that? On the comment section, someone that repeats the same behavior, yes, over and over again, even when they know better, it keeps repeating the same thing. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone, of course, everyone. Yes, yes, and thank you. Now, I want you to make this personal. I want you to type one pattern you notice in your own life, and I want you to do it on the comment section. Let's go. One pattern, it could be anything that you've noticed in your own life, but you've not dealt with it. It keeps repeating over and over and over again, but you've never dealt with it. Let me see on the comments. It can be anything: avoidance, overthinking, perfectionism, people pleasing, yeah, self-worth, low self-worth. Yes. Let me see on the comment section. Procrastination. Yes. Distraction. Yes. Let's go. What else? Procrastination. I can see there are some that are repeated. Wanting to please. Condemnation. Yes. Guilt. I see that. Procrastination. I can tell you this. You are human. You're human. You are human. I can see fear, overcaution. I see them. See all those patterns. They tell you we are actually, most of the time, and I can see they are still coming. Everyone has this repeating the same loop, even when we know better. Even when we've been on a program like this, you go home and talk the same. You go to your partner and just talk the same. Why do we do this? Now, let's go deeper here, because I can see I'm not alone. We all do this. And I would like us to break it down. Take the pattern that you've written, not you've written, you've written. The pattern that you've written, now we are going to map it. The first thing is, I want you to answer this question. What triggers this pattern? Be honest. I want you to type on the comment below. What triggers that pattern? What triggers that pattern? On the comment below. Let me see. What triggers that pattern the one you've typed? What triggers it? We are in a surgery room here. So the more open you are, we are opening the heart. What triggers it? Let me see on the comment section. The fear of being alone, the fear of rejection. Thank you. As you share it, by the way, there's something that is happening to your nervous system right now, because this process is deeper than you can tell, because it's a subconscious mind process. Disappointing people. Yes, I see that, coach. What triggers you? The fear of closeness. Oh, that's deep. I like that. The fear of closeness. Yeah. And that means, you know, you've been hurt before. The fear of failing, and shame. The fear of failure. Yes, yes, yes. Write it down. I tell you, writing it down is part of the healing. Wanting to be safe. Yeah. Dependency. Yes, yes. I see that. Now, let's ask the second question here. What emotion follows that trigger? What emotion follows that trigger? When you're triggered, what emotion follows that trigger? What do you feel? Uncontentment, yes. Anxiety, yes. Very good. And I want you to notice this, because I want you to be able to see the pattern, so that when it's coming back, you can break it. What emotion follows that trigger? Fear, overcaution, overwhelm, betrayal. Yes, you feel helpless. Yes. Ooh, I felt all those emotions. I don't know about you. I felt all those emotions. Anxiousness. Yes. I felt that self-condemnation. Yes. Even hatred of self. I see you. I felt all that. Overwhelm. Yes. 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 Bitterness. I've been there. Let's see. Disappointment. Yes. 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 Disappointment. Anxiety. Yes. Very good. Very good. I can see. Okay. Now, let's see. The next question. What behavior comes from that emotion? Let me see on the comment section. What behavior? When that emotion comes, what behavior comes out of that emotion? Do you avoid delay? Let me see on the comment section. I'm just looking at the comment section here. What behavior? Withdrawal. Yes. I shrink. Yes. Yes. And I want you to see the pattern. After this, I want you to map it out. Avoidance. Yes. Withdrawal. Yes. Overthinking. Isolate. Yes. 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 Been there. I avoid. Yes. Yes, avoidance. I can see avoidance is very common. Overthinking. I see that. I see you. I've been there. I see you. Embarrassment. Yes, been there. Withdrawal. Yes. Now, I want you to look at what you've just did. You have made the unconscious conscious. With just that small exercise, coach, you have made unconscious conscious. You have made what was in the subconscious mind, because most of the time when it's in the subconscious mind, that's how it can kill us. But when we make it conscious, we actually can attain our breakthrough. You have made the unconscious conscious. And that is where true power, that is where true authenticity. And maybe some of us, you've never shared this with anyone. And maybe you feeling vulnerable right now. I'm telling you, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Don't hide it. Vulnerability is the real game, when you can be vulnerable. And I want you to begin to share your story. Like Coach Lydia today, she shared so vulnerable, her story of up and down. And someone will feel, oh, why would you do that? But we all felt her. Why did we feel? And I saw the emojis that were expressing how you felt about her story. And I can tell you this, as a coach, I could see that how vulnerable she was, and that's our power. And coach, you should know that. That's your power. Your power is not to know all the coaching tools in the world. No, the real power, because information is free, but the real power is to get to that space where you can create a space for people to change. You inspired us. And that way, when we are vulnerable, we inspire other people. So let me give you a rule. The first rule: you cannot change a pattern that you do not interrupt, because the pattern can continue over and over again if there is no interruption. So the rule is you must interrupt the pattern. The moment the pattern starts, you must interrupt it that moment. The moment you are aware that this is the pattern, do something to interrupt the pattern in the moment, not later. Now, what most people do is they say, I'll do it later. I'll do this later, Jeff. Can we do this later? And that is how you get in prison. That's how you get into those emotional prisons, because of later. I'll do it later. Patterns are interrupted in the moment, right now. And so you want to do something radical. Patterns are not interrupted in, you cannot interrupt a pattern in a nice, sweet way. No, because these are patterns are thieves of destiny. And so when you interrupt a pattern, you want to make it immediate. That's the first rule. Secondly, it must be deliberate. You must make a deliberate action that is inconsistent with the pattern. That's how you interrupt a pattern. So let's say it's a pattern of criticism. You're criticized every time you speak, or every time you go to a meeting and people are late, you feel bad, and you're always telling apologies and feeling bad, and you continue to feel bad. You want to do the opposite of that. That's pattern interruption. So if you walk into a meeting and keep quiet, lift your hand. That's pattern interruption right there. If you get into engagements and you never say what you want in that engagement, do that. Say what you want, but you can only do that when you're vulnerable, when you're ready to be seen as you, as Jeff, the village boy who, grew up to overcome his bullying from Form 1 to becoming school captains, to becoming the university leader, to becoming a coach. It's a journey of vulnerability. And it's a journey of being open and real with myself. And you're in your own journey of vulnerability, of being real and open. That private life between you, yourself, and God, where you can say, well, today was messy, and that's okay. Today was challenging, and that's okay. Let's see how tomorrow is. And you wake up, make that call again, and that call again. Let me tell you, you are creating the kind of a coach that is on the first lane of this work, because not many people do that. So it has to be deliberate. It has to be deliberate action that you take. Let's take a deep breath together. Out through the mouth. That's a very easy way of interrupting a pattern, because a pattern must involve physiology. And so most of us, when we are in a negative pattern, what do? Our breath is shallow. So to interrupt a pattern, one of the easiest way to interrupt a pattern, take a deep breath. In and out. You've just interrupted a pattern. Some of these patterns you're not even aware what you're interrupting. But it's good for you to be consistent with the action of taking breath, if that's what you're choosing. So you pause, take a deep breath. Sometimes I just stand up. You just stand up, you interrupt a pattern. Because if you're always seated and your body is always slouched, it follows a certain pattern of always being in a certain state of mind. Just stand up. Put your body straight, like your chest high, like this, your chest out. You've interrupted a pattern. Because if you always sit the same way, you always feel the same thing, and you always, exhibit the same behavior. So on a personal level, now we are not talking about your client, we're talking about you. I want you to choose one way this week you can interrupt your pattern. The pattern you wrote down. And it could be as simple as your breath, the breath that you've taken. But this time, do it consistently. Do it consistently. Every time you feel and that negative pattern coming, or the temptation to do it, take a deep breath. It can be the pattern. So now it becomes a positive trigger, and you go through the same process of pattern of, the positive trigger brings a positive emotion. The positive emotion brings a positive behavior, and the positive behavior brings a positive outcome and result. It's the same thing. Whatever you are doing to bring you down, you can do it now to raise your standard. Now, it could be speaking out your truth loudly. Yes, I have a point. You're breaking a pattern. There are some people who've never shared their truth. You can be in a class like this. You never share your truth. You never lift your hand and say, I have a point. Can I make a suggestion? You are breaking a pattern. If you've never spoken, you're breaking a pattern. And the good news? If you break a pattern in one area of your life, you realize you're breaking the same pattern in other areas, because human beings are the same. The way you act in one area is the way you act in another. And so when you break a pattern with a friend, maybe you always say yes. Now someone is, yes, because you're scared of hurting people. Yes. I want you to say no this week and pause. Don't explain, just no. Don't say, if someone is telling you, can we go out? Can you come and can you take me out? And you don't really want. You don't want, and it's okay not to want, by the way. But you just drag yourself there and say, okay, let's go. Okay, let's go. Okay. Now this week, I want you to interrupt the pattern with just one word. No explaining. Don't say, no, my father, my mother did this. I know even people who kill their relatives for them to say no. You say, I've just lost a relative. Just to say you're not coming. No. There is no explaining. You're not here to explain to people. Over-explaining is actually inauthenticity. Just no. You have a right to say no, actually. You have a right to say no. And period. By the way, no is a complete sentence. Do you know that? Like, no, I'm not coming. Or yes, I'm coming. Yes, I'm all in. In fact, the Bible says, let your yes be yes, let your no be. The Bible is a coaching book, my friend. It's telling you who is interested in your stories. Just tell us, are you in or out? And this is where people get lost. They over-explain themselves. They tell, are you coming? Or Jeff, no, I'm not coming. You are not coming, period. That's enough. That's enough. And it gives you credibility. It gives you power. This week, let's interrupt our patterns. If you say no, say no. If you say yes and go all in. Speak out your truth out loudly. Another one is change your environment. Change your environment. That's another way of interrupting a pattern. It's always good to change environment. And that's why we do the retreat, because most people are in Nairobi, outside of Malindi. We do it in Malindi, so you can change environment. In July, we are doing the retreat for coaches. So mark your calendar. It's good to change your environment, interrupt your pattern. If you're always in the same environment, sometimes I even put my desk different ways. The need for variety, I know. I have that need for variety. But changing environment, like the way things are, actually interrupt pattern. You just feel different. Just change environment. Even mentally shifting your focus can break your pattern. All right. Now I can see our time is up, but we are not done with pattern interruption. We'll continue from there in the next session. Let me see on the comments section if you've gotten something from this training, from this training today, from this lab. Let me see, what's your takeaway? What's your takeaway? What's the light bulb moment that went and you're like, yeah, I'm going to apply this week? Let me see on the comments section. Yes, coach, Elizabeth, vulnerability is strength. Yes, coach. Yes, coach. I hear you. Let me see. What's your takeaway? What's your takeaway? What's your takeaway from this conversation today on this Monday practice lab? What's your takeaway? And I feel it. Yes, coach. Coach Simon, please unmute yourself.
Yes, coach. Thank you so much. I think that was very, very informative. Allow me to take you back a little bit. I know we may not have time for it. I was touched by your engagement with the client who was at her sunset days.
Yes.
And I was just curious about what kind of patterns were you looking for? And talking of reset, how are you managing that? What kind of shift were you looking for? I am just curious about
Brilliant.
some of
Brilliant.
what you handled, right? Yes.
Awesome. Brilliant question. So for my client, her goal was very clear. She wanted to exit from a space of joy. And that is what she wanted to live in the hearts, in the mind, and the faces of our children. Not sadness, not bitterness. And she was coming from bitterness, because you're talking about a high flying, government official who has gotten there and she has invested her entire life to get there. And then you're called home. What do you do? And so for her, she was very clear. I just want to exit with the joy of the Lord not with bitterness. She was very clear. And we were able to achieve that, coach. And she left a mark, not just in our family, but in me and with the doctors and everyone around. And when we get there, when we are clear on what we are dealing with, and when we are clear on what matters the most with us, and the patterns that stand on the way. And it's good you've raised that question, because let's take, for instance, joy. Every time you're dealing with one pattern, there will be patterns that stand in the way of that pattern. Like in the way of joy is bitterness. You cannot fake joy. You can't. I don't mean, some people try, like, just trying to smile, and that's not joy. Joy is of the heart, and it coming from the heart. In fact, in the good book, it's a fruit. So it comes from the nature of who you are. But there are things that stand in place between us and that pattern, like the pattern of joy, even love. There are people, love is a pattern that, and it's an emotional pattern that is consistent for some people. This is where they stay most of the time. But there are patterns that stay in between us and this beautiful life experience of joy, peace, and love. Patterns like bitterness, patterns like overcaution, perfectionism, being too careful, blaming God, blaming the devil, blaming people, blaming yourself. These are some of the patterns that we had to deal with my client, until she felt in a place of total surrender and peace and joy. And for me, when we get there, and I know when I work with a client and they are free, I know, because you can't fake it. You can't fake joy. You can't. You can tell in the conversation that she's coming from that inner, true, authentic joy. I hope I've answered you, coach.
Yes, well answered. Thank you so much.
Yes. So always I can see I'll be looking for some of you. I can see Citizen TV calling here. We'll be looking for our coach to go maybe tomorrow. Coach Agnes, one final one before we go.
Thank you for the session. Quite insightful. Awesome. I just wanted to make reference to one of your statements and ask a question.
Yes.
About breaking patterns, especially when the client is not realizing that the pattern is destructive and going down the drain in alcoholism. Where do we start from there? They don't see the need to break the pattern, but you as the coach clearly see that here is a problem. How do we go around that?
Good question. Now, one of the tools you're going to learn in the program is a tool we call leverage. And we addressed that in the previous video, and it's good. The video is shared in the class platform. You can watch the replay. Leverage is powerful. And leverage is when you help the client see the pain of staying in that pattern, the pain they are costing their loved ones, the pain they are costing those the price they will pay, the price they are paying, and the price they will pay in future if they continue to do the same. And I've done some, clients that were coming from rehab, and they have been in rehab over and over again to overcome addiction. And I've seen that until they can see and feel the pain, and this is not real pain, this is associative pain. People don't change because of real pain. Because if you tell them, oh, do you know you're going to lose your liver? No, they tell them, but I've not lost my liver yet. So it's not real pain. You look at associative pain, because human beings change when their mind associates pain to behavior. So drinking has to feel painful, not enjoyable. As long as the client thinks drinking is enjoyable, they'll never change. And I've seen it. As long as they are getting pleasure from the behavior, they don't change. They have to get pain. And for you as a coach, you are taking them to a place of pain, and you have to be real with them. Do your research. I want you to paint the picture of what is the worst case scenario that can happen. I was going through a journey with my client, and we went through statistics. We even do research with my clients and tell, I want you to go do research of people your age who've been drinking. What does research, because data doesn't lie. By the way, be friends with data. Data does not lie. Data can tell you where your life is going to. That's why I love research. When you research and involve your client with the research, don't just research you, because this is their life, it's not your life. Let them research, because research itself will be painful for them. When they research on the outcome of people that, and how their life ended, and what statistics say, and they could be among the statistics, most people change. And leverage is the tool that you use to help people change when they don't want to change. It's your work as a coach to lead them to that awareness, and to do that fearlessly, and know that, some of us don't want people to experience pain. You're like, oh, I don't want to tell you you're going to die. Let me tell you what I do, Coach Agnes. I actually tell them, close your eyes. See, 20 years from today, we are actually at your burial. And because I've already taken them through their story, I know some people, I mentioned people are standing, and we are burying you right now. The pastor has just preached, and we've told your story, and people are very honest. They are telling us the story of how you lived your life. And I'm also there as your coach, but I'm telling a story of how I took you through this and you chose your life, and how you died. And I let them go through it with their eyes closed, because when you close your eyes, you access your subconscious mind. By the time you are done with that visualization, you don't need to tell them what to do. And because coaching is not about telling people what to do, they make the move themselves. But they make the move because they associated pain with the behavior. And so as long as they associate pleasure with the behavior, like young people would smoke and feel, and they just like, yeah, it's so cool. As long as they feel that smoking is cool, they will not break free until they associate. So we do all manner of researches that have been done about the liver. We see all that as a point of leverage because awareness is on different levels. There are people who just know, oh, then it's written even on the cigarette and a packet that, and even the bottle is written excessive drinking. But the person will continue to drink and mess their families and mess their relationships. So that's a level of awareness. So you have to take them to neural level of awareness where their brain can associate pain to the behavior. Then we are talking about change, real change. Thank you, coaches. I can see your feedback here. Allow me to end there. Or I can see breaking the spirit of explanation. Yes, say no. Yes, and mean it. Kindly, let me see. Oh, there are more questions here. Let me see. The Lamb of God is the Savior. There is power in weakness. Yes, totally, Coach Bruno. I tell you, there is no more hiding. Tell your story. Can you use this with an addict? Yes, I'm actually doing the same. This is what I do with my addiction clients. And are we not addicts, all of us, coaches? You know, some of us, we are dealing with addicts, but ourselves, we are addicts of something else. We are addicted to telling a story that is not consistent with our true story. I'm telling you, as I deal with addicts, I look at my life, I'm like, hey, Jeff, you also are an addict yourself. As we deal with other people, we also look in the mirror and deal with our own addictions. Thank you, coaches. Thank you so much. This is so inspiring. And there's one more message here. Oh, I can see people have written quite a number of messages. If I've not read your message, let's continue this conversation in the next session, coaches. And remember to coach your practice partner because we are doing this series so we can get the fundamentals of breakthrough coaching. So please make sure you do your weekly coaching and be coaching your practice partner, practice what we are learning here, and do that from a place of vulnerability. And as you do that, you're giving yourself a special gift. Thank you. Telling the story is the powerhouse. Yes, thank you and good night. God bless. Bye-bye.